Let's hear Baldy. Baldy was really good today. He was on the game
Spicy.
on Bonte and Shasky, and he wants Darnold. Listen to this. Here's Baldy.
Baldy, I'll ask you directly, and we'll get back into the rest of the team because Greenlaw, Debo, I mean, there's so much to talk about. If John Lynch came to you and said, hey, Brian, I know you watch every single week, and you watch all these other quarterbacks around the league. Brock is demanding top 5 money. What do we do here? What would your advice to him be?
I'd say I'd go flip him for Sam Darnold right now.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
So Minnesota, look, let's just think about Sam for a second. He sat there as a backup all year. He learned what first-class franchise game planning, how to build a team. He saw that for the first time in his life. Now he's with Kevin O'Connell, who's an elite play caller with a very, very good offense that has a real style to it, and he's flourishing. And Minnesota doesn't have to commit anything to him right now. All they're doing, I talked to the general manager 2 weeks ago, Quezzy, and just to play it out. They've got a quarterback they drafted. They don't have to give them top flight money, or they could trade him. I would be having a conversation with Minnesota to see what it would take to get Sam Darnold back. He's a bigger, stronger, more athletic. I don't know, but he's bigger, stronger than what Brock is. Or can you play with both of them at a modicum of salary and afford both and, I don't know, have a competition? I mean, I'd be interested to see what it would take to get Sam Darnold.
All right. The both thing is not possible.
Yeah, that's
right?
not
I mean, we can't go both. I mean,
both.
That both is hey, I'd like to have my wife and a girlfriend, something tells me my wife is not going to go for it.
Girlfriend might not either.
Girlfriend's not going to go for it. Wife's not going to go for it. I just get the feeling that I'm going to have a hard time bringing that ship to shore. You know what I mean? It's not going to work. The both isn't going to work. But what do you think? What do you think of Darnold? I mean, here's the thing. Are we overreacting to a down year from Brock? And when I say that, because there's people going, Brock's already better than this guy. Brock's already, and hey, first of all, everybody in the chat, breathe. All right. I am probably the biggest Brock Purdy fan there is.
Yeah.
So a lot of this discussion we're having that I had with Grant and that I'm having with Raj, this is really just a healthy catharsis to get through this whole, conversation. I want to retain Brock. I'm a Brock believer. I look at this year and say they backslid because Ayuk backslid and CMC backslid and Debo backslid, and they scored 40 touchdowns last year. And this year they've got 2. And that to me is a huge part of this whole thing. So I'm a big Brock fan. And if it was up to me, I would sign Brock. And then I would probably go into the veteran market for a Dalton. And then as a backup and a real backup. And then I got backup who I thought I could win games with, not a Brandon Allen backup, but an actual backup that I felt like I could win with. And then I want to go in the draft and I want to go get somebody else. And that's my quarterback room. I don't want to go down the Darnold road or Kirk Cousins. But you heard from Baldy there. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely Darnold's played good. I'm going to give Darnold his credit this year. I mean, I didn't expect him to be this good. Fortunate for him and unfortunate for J.J. McCarthy. The injury happened and it opened the door for Sam Darnold. And this was an opportunity for him because he's kind of been a bad quarterback through his career. And I think that's what people remember him as. Jets, that was a terrible situation. Carolina, terrible situation. He goes to the Niners. He kind of resurrected himself. It wasn't like he played great for the Niners, but he did everything he had to do. He learned, he was in a good training camp position. He learned a lot from Kyle and this team. And I think it gave him a new release. Hey, I got a second chance. $10 million to be a backup. That's pretty good, right? So he goes into Minnesota. He worked his tail off and he got an opportunity. He's taking advantage of it. Everybody that gets an opportunity, you want to make the most of it. Brock Purdy, 3rd quarterback on the roster. Nobody thought he was going to ever start. Mr. Irrelevant. The fact that he made the roster was crazy, right? So he gets an opportunity. He made the most of it. You have to make the most of those opportunities in the NFL because sometimes they're very far and few between. Sam Darnold got a 3rd chance, and he's making the most of it. Do I think he's worth top dollar? No, but he should get Baker Mayfield money. I think he should get the $35 to $40 million. That doesn't make sense for the 49ers to get him and Brock. It's one or the other. You can take the cheaper guy, Sam. But if you look at the Minnesota Vikings, like they have a star-studded team. Not saying that the Niners don't, but the Minnesota Vikings didn't really have a lot of injuries, right? They got Justin Jefferson, Addison. They got a great O-line. They got a great defense. Their coach has been really good, probably one of the coaches of the year. So Sam Darnold's in a good position. He's going to parlay himself into a quarterback situation next year. It's going to be a team that takes him and gives him a contract. It's not going to be the Niners. Do I want Sam Darnold? No, but I'm happy for him. Is he better than Brock Purdy? No, because they were on the same team last year. Brock Purdy was the starter. Sam Darnold was his backup. Now, again, Brock Purdy took advantage of his situation, and so did Sam Darnold. There's parallels there, but I'm not taking Sam Darnold on this Niners team. You had him on the roster. You could have brought it. If you liked him that much, you could have kept him. You didn't. So kudos to Sam. He'll find a contract somewhere. I do think the Niners need a better backup because Brandon Allen, that guy's bad. Josh Dobbs, apparently they don't like him. I think at some point you need to figure out who your backup quarterback is. Maybe Danny Dimes. He'll probably be a cheaper guy. There's going to be a lot of quarterbacks that you can look into, but the Niners do need to invest on a backup quarterback. But you can't have Sam Darnold and Brock Purdy on the same team.
Now, I have not spoken to Kyle Strongton, but I have friends who have, and there's no way he's taking that Baker Mayfield contract.
For Brock?
Yeah, he's not taking that.
No, there's no way.
He's not taking it if it's all guaranteed. If it's $120 million and it's all guaranteed, he's not taking it.
He wants the big money. That's what
he wants the big money. He's going for the big money.
I believe it.
Here before we go with our better lineup of the week. We're going back to 95.7 the game. This is Willard and Dibbs, and they had Kurt Warner on. And Warner, listen to Warner here. We'll react.
Kurt, conversely, I want to ask you about Sam Darnold. A lot of talk about him here because he was here last year. Also, our friend Brian Baldinger came on earlier this morning and said he would try to flip Purdy for Darnold, even though that's not sort of really possible based on their situations. But I do want to ask you about Sam. Why has he suddenly popped and looked so much better, in your opinion?
I mean, the first thing just makes me laugh because, what about the last 2 years with Brock Purdy? I remember I kind of went through since St. Louis too, is that, went to a couple Super Bowls, won a couple MVPs, and then we had a down year after our second Super Bowl. And, and people were asking, well, are you going to, change quarterbacks and whatever? And I just remember Mike Martz at one point in the season going, "Look, are you guys a part of the amnesia crowd? Have you forgot, what happened the last 3 years and how good Kurt was? We're not just going to panic because we've had a bad stretch here. But it's almost like that's what we're doing in San Francisco. Let's forget about these last 2 years because this year hasn't been as good. And then the same with Sam Darnold. Let's forget about everything else he's done in the league because he's been wildly inconsistent. And although he's shown glimpses, he's never been able to put it together. And now he's having this incredible year in Minnesota. And we're all ready to say, oh, let's flop him and let's take this guy because he's having a great year, even though he's never shown the ability to put 2 great years together back to back. So it's so funny how we have such recency bias on so many different things in this league instead of just trying to figure out, okay, who is this guy? Yeah, that's what we need to know. Who is Sam Darnold? Is Sam Darnold the inconsistent up and down guy that we've seen most of his career, or is he the guy that we're seeing this year play with great confidence and being surrounded by great playmakers and being surrounded by a coach that believes in him and setting him up for success in a lot of situations? Is that what we're going to get from Sam Darnold? Is it just now he's matured, he's found the right system, and we're going to see this guy play this way the rest of his career? I don't know the answer to that, but I would have to see it. I would need to see another season like this before I'm ready to say that's who he is, because we've seen plenty of players in this league that, run into one of those just magical seasons. They have a magical run, in one season. They can win an MVP. They can go to the Super Bowl. All these things can happen in one season. But then what happens is we normally see how this levels out. And you go, oh, okay, they had that one outlier season that was just better than everything else. And the rest of their career, they're this guy. And that's really what you're trying to figure out with all of these quarterbacks. And so Sam, I think, is in a great situation. He's playing really good football. He's surrounded by
a lot of really good pieces that have made the game easier for him. And so things have just kind of come together perfectly for Sam this year. But I want to see another year like this, before I'm ready to go. That's the guy. And this is, who we thought he could be. I want to see him stack another season together that's just not quite as perfect, right? The things around him aren't quite as good, and show me that you can still be a similar type player. And now I can invest in something like that.
Kurt,
what do you think, Raj? What do you think? Warner sounds like he's a bigger fan of Purdy than he is of Darnold, and he makes a good point. I mean, his point is, hey, guess what? Yeah, if you're putting everything that you know about all these guys into just this year, fuck yeah, Sam Darnold's better than Brock Purdy.
Yeah,
but there was more to that. We saw them on the same field last year, and Brock taught. I think Darnold is partially the player that he is because he worked with Purdy. Because listening to Darnold talk about it, he was like, I never prepped like that. He learned an intense form of preparation from Brock Purdy and has carried that to Minnesota. And now he's got these awesome receivers, this great offense, this great defense, and he's having a tremendous year. But it's a tremendous individual year. Like, what is Brock? Is Brock, to hear the people that don't like Brock are like, he's been found out, and the guy that he is right now is the guy that he actually is, and the guy that he was before, that was a mirage. And then they're trying to at the same time tell you that the Sam Darnold, these same people were like literally mortally offended when Sam Darnold was placed by Kyle Shanahan in front of Trey Lance on the Niner depth chart last summer.
I remember.
How could that possibly be? And then those same people are like, go get Sam Darnold.
Yeah, it's fun. It's recency, but and it's kind of like I was saying, like Sam's in a good position. And I got to give him his credit. Like, to Sam's credit, he's played great, but it kind of fell in his lap. He's in a good situation, just like Warner said. But and I know why Kurt Warner really loves Brock, because he was the underdog, right? Kurt Warner was one of the biggest underdogs in NFL history, and so is Brock. So he roots for him. I think he sees parallels in Brock Purdy that he sees in him. Like, those two guys are very similar in. Nobody knew who the hell they were coming in this league. Man, Kurt Warner was bagging groceries, right? And then he comes in, and his story is incredible, just like Brock's story. So I think he roots for Brock, but I think he's right. And I saw you do this video I saw this on TikTok. I'm cruising TikTok. I see my boy Larry Krueger, and he goes, "What happened last? You guys loved Brock Purdy. You guys loved him." And I see the Lions video in the background. I was like, "Oh, this is a good video. Kevin did a good job." And I see Larry, "Why do you hate him this year, but you loved him last year? You would have signed him." So in the same recency bias of Sam Darnold, all of a sudden being everybody's favorite, now everybody hates Brock because he's having a bad season. But I do somewhat agree to the point of, ever since that Baltimore game, it's shifted. Like, he hasn't been the same. But I will say, ever since that Baltimore game, like, CMC's starting to get hurt. He would missed a few games in the end of that season. And then this year he missed time. I think the Brandon Ayuk situation, the O-line hasn't been the same. So yeah, Brock's regressed this season. But again, you don't want to go through the whole quarterback situation again. Try to find another guy. We've literally been trying to find a quarterback for 8 years. They found the guy, pay him. George Kittle's going to be pissed, like I said. But as far as Sam Darnold, he's got two of the best man coverage wide receivers in the NFL. Justin Jefferson and Addison. Come on, man. Like, that is a cheat code right there. And I think Kurt Warner hit the nail on the head that Sam is actually finally comfortable because the game's easy for him. Carolina, anybody to throw to out there. The Jets, that was the most dumpster fire situation that a rookie, he was a rookie quarterback, got thrown into this horrible situation. And the Jets, it's a bad franchise to begin with. So that was a horrible start to his career. He's kind of, went through the fire. He's been through adversity. He's finally learned a lot. I think San Francisco really helped him out from, like you said, Brock and this system. And he learned how to prepare for games. And now he's in a comfortable situation. Larry, I think you would be throwing 4,000 yards if you had Justin Jefferson to throw to. Come on, my guy.
Seriously, if I had JJ, I'd still be in the league.